Hey guys, so I felt bad about the crappy story I read you guys. It was more just like a quick video. I want to be funny. Um, Not to mention, it was not too long after work, and I honestly just didn't feel like reading. So I did something I knew you guys would enjoy and laugh at while pushing out a half-ass mediocre video. So I guess it worked for everyone. Um, but I'm going to read something a little different this time. It's an actual story, so don't worry. No hyper realistic blood or skeletons popping out or anything like that. This is what they would consider a lost episode type of creepypasta, and it involves Doug. You know Doug. Yeah, that Doug. So, this is Doug's real life, and it was written by Kai or Ki Simpson. All right. So, everyone remembers the show Doug, one of the original three Nicktoons. It seemed like a pretty normal show about the challenges a young boy faced in his daily life, but I always got a weird kind of feeling from it. Compared to the other shows, Doug seemed more negative and anxiety centered. Very true. You look at stuff like Rugrats or something like that, very, you know, playful and all over the place. Doug, every episode he has some kind of fantasy about how life was going wrong and the worst possible thing that could happen, even if it was completely impossible for that thing to happen at all. But Doug was always worried about something. And in most episodes, he would have fantasies of everyone he knew cruelly laughing at him due to whatever problem he was facing that week. Doug always came through in the end, though, and every episode ended with him writing in his journal about how he had overcome his blown out of proportion problem. In 2005, I began to have dreams about the show for no apparent reason. I cannot remember the details, but they made me want to see the show again. The show had not even been had not even been seen in reruns for years at that point, so I could not think of any way to see it again. Download it online. That's what everyone else did. Hell, I think I still have all the videos I burnt onto a disc from like 2006. To my surprise, however, it came back for 1 week in fall 2005, airing at 6 a.m. on weekdays. I watched it all for all 5 days. The first four were episodes I remembered, but they did not sync up with my memories perfectly. It had been a while, so I just chopped it up to flaws in my memories. The Friday episode, though, was something I was positive I had never seen before. It started with the normal intro with the line drawings, but the characters never appeared. These lines continued as normal, reacting as if the normal characters were there. Once the intro ended, it switched to show Doug in a dark room, writing in his journal. He was not narrating his writing like he usually did. He just silently wrote for about a minute. The screen faded out, and the usual episode title screen appeared. Yet there was no skip this frame. There was just giant letters forming the title Doug's Real Life. The episode opened with Doug eating breakfast. He was giving a voiceover about how there was a big test he neglected studying for, and his family was having a normal conversation. The screen started flashing. The flashes seemed to be showing something, but they did not last long enough for me to figure out what they were revealing. Doug left his house and began walking to school. During his stroll, he had one of those fantasies about his life being ruined. Mrs. Wingo announced that Doug had flunked the test, and the entire class started laughing at him, with their heads swirling around Doug. This went for longer than most fantasies, and the laughter sounded crueler than usual. When Doug got to school, the screen flashed again. This time it stayed on the new image, or rather, the new animation style. The colors were darker, and many objects had changed color. It resembled a negative film. Doug was walking through the school hallway, which was full of kids who had never been seen on the show before. No one paid any attention to him. After Doug got to his desk, the animation switched back to normal. Suddenly, for no reason, the scene changed to after school had ended. Doug was walking home, worrying to himself about the test. Upon reaching his house, his dog Porkchop greeted him. Doug began talking to him until the screen flashed. pork chop turned into a hunk of rotting meat, and Doug's house became decrepit. Doug went into his house and acted as if he was talking to someone, though it was completely deserted. After interacting with invisible people for a while, he sat down at an empty table. The screen flashed again, and Doug's family was there with him, eating dinner. The phone rang, and Doug's mom answered it. Doug instantly thought it was his teacher telling them about him flunking the test. Doug had a fantasy about his parents yelling at him for failing. In it, they grew to be gigantic, and their heads and their faces became twisted and dark red. The screen flashed back to the empty house. Doug was crying and apologizing, but there was no one else in the room. He went up to his bedroom, which was completely empty except for a book and a pencil. Doug picked up the book and started writing. He narrated this time. I can't tell which one is real. So, there we go. Doug's Real Life, which I think it's really like a creepy twist on something that we grew up with. Because here we see just a normal kid, but here he's obviously either schizophrenic or something to where he's having these in and out type situations where he's not even able to tell which one is real. Is it his, is it just some weird kid with mental issues living in a decrepit house talking to a hunk of meat thinking that's his dog? Or is he actually in a loving family and, he's suffering some kind of mental issues? Either way, he's got mental issues. But I think this was a really good one. Short, sweet. And here's what it was supposedly what it looked like. They just took a regular photo and negative. But that's what they say it pretty much looked like. But yeah, that is Doug's Real Life. No comments. But yeah, Doug always had a way of taking something simple, like say losing his journal, and then he fantasized about it, like some kind of worst case scenario where it's like on this, like in the dump, and it's about to be stomped on or incinerated or something, and it like gets up and it's like, help me, Doug. It's like no real person would automatically assume that it's in some dump about to be demolished. Someone would think, oh, gee, I left it somewhere. Let me go back to where I left it, or think I left it. I think it turned out, like in that episode, he loses his journal. And it turns out that I think he left it like the Honker Burger, and Roger found it, and instead of reading it, he just gives it back to Doug. So he always goes to like this most absurd worst case scenario that would never freaking happen in a million years. One of the more memorable ones was the liver and onions episode where Patty invites him over for dinner. And she's like, oh yeah, we'll be having my favorite, liver and onions. So like the entire episode is just him trying to eat liver and onions and all these fantasies about him conquering it, and Patty like, oh my god, yay, you're the best ever. I want to date you and I want to bury your children. But then he gets to her house and she's like, no, it's just fucking with you. We're not having liver and onions. we're having hamburgers and fries and stuff. So she's like, yeah, I'm fucking with you. But there was definitely this weird thing about it because him and his family were drawn and colored very normally. He was like a peach color. His dad was a peach color. I think Judy was like more of a like tannish, like an orangier, but not like Patty where she was full on orange. Judy was more like a tannish, and I think his mom was purple, like a light purple. Then you had Mr. Dink next door, who was completely purple, and his wife. So Mr. Dink is fucking hilarious. Oh, Douglas! He was like, everything for him, it was very expensive. And then you had Skeeter, who was blue, BB, who was purple, Roger, who was green, Roger's cat, Stinky, who was like pinkish, like dark pink. That episode was pretty memorable. Roger and his mom go out of town or go to some event or something, and Roger leaves Doug Doug in charge of Stinky, and I think he was like Stinky manages to eat some ice cream or something like that, and Stinky gets sick, or what Doug assumed is sick. So Doug does the right thing. He goes to the vet, and the vet's like, yeah, Stinky's not sick, and Stinky's not a boy. Stinky's a girl, and Stinky is now a mother. And then they show all these little kittens, and they're so weirdly drawn, but they're so cute at the same time. You know, obviously Roger's there before anything's told, and he's like, you know, what did you do to my cat? And blah, 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 all worried about his cat dying and being sick. And then he finds out that Stinky's a mother. So, yeah, there's a lot of memorable episodes. Or the Halloween, they had a Halloween episode. So the Halloween episode, he dresses up as Race Canyon, who's kind of like Indiana Jones. He loses his hat sometime, I think early in the episode. They go to Funky Town, to this haunted mansion, supposedly belonged to this guy, Baron von Heckelhofer, who built the mansion for his love. He goes over the threshold, and they fall to their death because he forgot to build a floor inside of it. And so they go through, it's a haunted house type thing. Roger's there with them, and then he kind of breaks off to try to scare them. And the episode ends with a mysterious figure who's been watching them this entire time, helping them scare Roger and his friends. They're walking at the end of the night, and the mysterious figure pulls out Doug's hat. You know, pretty nice thing. You know, they're laughing and all that, having a good time. He pulls out his hat, and Doug wonders, like, where'd you get this? Who are you? And the mysterious figure says, just call me Baron von Heckelhofer. So he starts, like, spinning and going off into the night. And then Doug and Skeeter, like a bunch of assholes, just run off into the night screaming. It's like, dude, the guy was chill. He not only watched your ass the entire night to make sure you were okay, he helped you get back at your bullies, and he gave you back your hat that you had missing from the beginning of the episode. And yet you run away from him because, oh god, he's some spooky ghost. Please. But, yeah. Doug's real life, though. If this was an episode, I would definitely enjoy it. This is something I could see being like an independent type thing, or something on late night. But if someone was able to do this, that would be amazing. Because the whole premise of it, about Doug not being able to tell what's real and what's not anymore, you know, for us, the viewer, watching this, just like this part, upon reaching his house, his dog Pork Chop, which I love Pork Chop in the show, he's awesome, greeted him. We had to talk to him, screen flash, Pork Chop turned into a hunk of rotting meat, and Doug's house became decrepit. So for Doug, he's seeing everything as he normally would. But for us, we're seeing what's actually there. We're seeing him go about his business as if his family was there, where Pork Chop was a real dog. You know, we see this broken house falling apart, but he's just going about his business like everything's hunky-dory and real. So to see an episode like this, I think it would go over fairly well, considering it's Doug. You know, it's nostalgic, so it would bring in a lot of people, but it also introduces a darker spin on it, having Doug be shown as possibly a little messed up in the head. So I think this would really be cool. Now, there was another Lost episode that I wanted to read. Actually, there's a few that are somewhat good. I might do one tomorrow, and then Monday we'll start off the new week, and we'll do something, I don't know, like creepy videos, which I have a few in mind already. Oh god, I'm gonna terrorize you guys. Don't worry, no screamers. I'm not that much of an asshole. But yeah. Also, if you want to watch a funny, great episode of Doug, another memorable episode was the scary movie he goes to see. Like during the entire time, he goes to see this movie like 15 fucking times, and every time the monster comes out, he covers his eyes. You know, he has dreams at what it could be, and he's scared, and then he forces himself to watch the movie in its entirety, only to find that when the monster comes out, you can see this big old fucking zipper on the back of, you know, where, you know, for the costume. And then he realizes that he was scared over nothing. He tells his friends about it, and they're like, "Oh, really? Yeah, I was too scared. I covered my eyes." Even though previously they're like, "Oh my god, that was the scariest thing I've ever seen." Typical people trying to make it seem like they weren't afraid of something when they were all afraid. I think even Roger was saying something that, you know, but I had something in my eye or some shit like that. I don't remember. But they were all trying to make it seem like they were, oh, they were big and brave, and most of them, pretty much all of them, covered their eyes, and only Doug had the fucking balls to actually go back and say, "You know what? I'm gonna face my fear right here. I'm gonna see what that monster looks like." And it comes out, and it's stupid looking. You can see the zipper, and it's I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure you can find clips of it on YouTube. Actually, hang on. So I couldn't find the actual episode. I mean, it's on YouTube, but you have to pay for it. But this is the monster that they were so afraid of. So you see this monster, and then it kind of like shows behind it, and you see the freaking zipper coming down. And yeah, this is what Doug was afraid of seeing the entire time. It's called The Abnormal. And the title of the episode was Doug's Nightmare on Jumbo Street. Obviously, paying homage to Nightmare on Elm Street. So, this is Dink. What's his name? Her name? Beverly? I think it's like Beverly, right? What? Yeah, Tippy. Okay, yeah, Tippy. But, yeah, her voice, she like never raised her voice. She was just kind of talking like this the entire time. Oh boy, we're having a great time, aren't we? Yeah, Nightmare on Jumbo Street is a parody of the movie franchise Nightmare on Elm Street. But during one of Doug's nightmares, Porkchop says, "Here's Porkchop." Yeah, that was a funny scene. The Abnormal has a zipper in the back. Very odd. Doug thought it was something else at first. They used to play this episode all the time. I guess it was just really popular. But, yeah, I would love to see this made into an actual episode. I think that would be really, really cool. And, I mean, hell, you know, I don't mind reading stories. It doesn't have to be spooky, you know, October month. If you see any good stories you want me to read, let me know. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.